Alexa, how many downloads for Jim and Bill, It's Another Day podcast?
From adweek.com. Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week, according to the publisher.
Well, what do you know? There's a lot of you out there listening, and we appreciate it. Don't forget to spread the word. Like and share Jim and Bill, It's Another Day. And once again, thanks for listening. Well, hello there. It's another day. It's the Weekend Update. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Happy Saturday. Well, it's going to get interesting. I mean, it gets interesting every day, but
I
never
know. I know. A lot of things to talk about. You know, Trump announced yesterday that he's going to go back to Butler and do a follow-up rally. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, he's going to do the follow-up rally, but today, where is he going? I got to go to my other page here of notes. He's doing a rally today, kind of shore up some stuff. I think it's Minnesota. Is he going?
Yeah, he's going to be in Minnesota, and the guy has not slowed down. In the meantime, you know, it's only been 2 weeks today since the shooting.
You know, the funny thing is, it's not funny, but they really try to, make it just diminish what happened. You know, well, he was hit by a shard of glass. He was hit by some scrap metal. The simple fact is there was an attempted assassination, and that's the main thing. And was he hit by a bullet or a piece of a bullet? It doesn't matter. He was hit, but the doctor said it was a damn bullet.
Yeah.
So let's just go with what the doctor said, because that's it. You see the bullets flying by. That's what it is. But they want to trivialize and minimalize it with the Democrats because they don't want him to be this superhuman being. They wanted to take the wind out of his sails. Kamala's got a sugar high.
Yeah.
And it's going to sooner or later go down. But, you know, they've got they're cooking those numbers. Every stinking piece of media is in on it, you know, and I realized, really, conservative news, you've only got two sources, Fox, and that's diminishing, and Gateway Pundit, and that is on the ropes because they're trying to bankrupt them and make them go away. And then it's all state news.
Dr. Ronnie Jackson examined and treated President Trump like right after the ER doctors looked at it, and he said, say what you want. He said, I've dealt with bullet wounds for a career. He served in the service in the Iraq War. And he said, President Trump was shot by a bullet. Period. End of sentence. Nothing else to discuss. But the media, you know, Christopher Wray, he's not a doctor. He didn't have a right to chime in during those hearings last week and question publicly whether it was a bullet or shrapnel. By the way, they diminish shrapnel. And shrapnel, many times a person has been killed by shrapnel, you know. But
it can be from a bullet that hits something and, you know, falls apart. It can be a fragment of a bomb. And, you know, there's a lot in this story that they're trying to trivialize, minimize, and make go away. They don't want you to focus on that. There's too many distractions out there because, look, I believe you can say I'm a conspiracy theorist, a fake news, or whatever you want to call me. I don't care. I don't care what you think if you're on the left. I really don't. The simple fact is, I think it was a hit by the government. It failed. Mm-hmm. I think the Democrats were in on it. Obama knew about it. You know, I think everybody knew about it. But maybe Joe didn't know. Maybe he did.
Well, I think he knew about it. I think he knew about it, and I think that's one of the reasons why he got out. They must have said, look, we tried our last option. It didn't work. The only option now is for you to get out and for us to get a replacement. By the way, they've got to know what a poor candidate Carmela is. There's a sugar high right now in politics. The public is on this, oh, Carmela, isn't she great? Trust me, this is just the dust. When it settles, you're going to see that Carmela has nothing to offer. Zero.
You know, there's a theory out there, and I kind of buy into it. because, Obama didn't come out and endorse until yesterday, and it was a staged phone call. Kamala's holding the phone up to her ear, and, you don't hold a phone up to your ear on a telephone call. But go ahead and I'll finish this.
Kamala!
Hello. Hi.
Hey there.
Oh, hi, you're both together. Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh, my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
Unbelievable. That's Carmela. And we're supposed to believe, by the way, that's a real phone call.
It's not. You and I have done phone audio over the years, whether through this podcast or you with CBS, me with the different various companies I've worked with. I've done phone calls with media people for commercials. And I can tell you right now, that was a staged call. Michelle and Barack, yeah, they probably did a phone-in thing, but that was pre-recorded, and Kamala was just acting to it. And even with the video thing, because they turned it into an instant campaign commercial within minutes, this was all staged and theatrical. It was BS. But
she holds the phone bill up to her ear.
You don't do that.
It's on speakerphone.
You don't have to do that. She's a bad actress. She's a bad player all the way around. And the thought that I had heard from some sources, and I believe it, that Barack was deep into this. He had another candidate in mind, and Biden just going, "Yeah, I'm endorsing Kamala," was a big FU to Obama. But Kamala kind of knew
we're going to see how much involvement the Obamas have in this campaign. If they couldn't show up in person to raise her arm up in the air like this is our candidate, that says to me this is very tepid, very superficial. Now, the Democratic convention comes up. If she's the candidate, are the Obamas going to show up and go on stage and support her, or are they going to phone something in, or will it just be a message?
Well, see, that's what I don't know. I think there's going to be all hell breaking loose in Chicago, whether it's produced or not. And I kind of wonder, even in her picks as a running mate, if she's not being steered in a direction that her running mate may be the actual person candidate. There's a lot going on. And then
James Carville is saying,
oh, yeah.
This is a sugar high. Don't get your hopes up. Listen.
Well, I hate to do this, but I got to be the curmudgeon. I have to be the skunk at the garden party. This is too triumphalist, okay? This is everybody's giddy. I look at the coverage, and it's great, and if I had to write a play about what I think it's going to be like, it would be entitled The Ice Pick Cometh, okay? Get ready, they're coming. All right, and it's good. Everybody should feel good and liberated and everything else. But if we don't win the election, we haven't done anything. We haven't changed the temperature in America. We haven't changed anything. And I think the vice president, I hope that, her campaign is getting ready. I hope they'll listen to my friend and fellow New Orleanian, Don Brazil, who actually, I think, has the same kind of view of politics that I do. And they're coming at us. And they're going to keep coming. And this kind of giddy elation is not going to be very helpful much longer, because that's not what we're going to be faced with. And I think the vice president, put it in athletic terms, needs a really good cut man in a corner, because she's getting ready to get cut.
Let me tell you something, Bill. The difference with Carmela is Carmela has a record that she can't hide from. All of the things that she's done wrong as a member of this administration is going to come back to haunt her. It's just the beginning. Ben Carson was on with Tucker, and he had a couple of words about the campaign and the election. Listen.
What do you think of Kamala Harris?
I think she is a politician.
Yeah.
And she's interested in the accumulation of power and control.
Do you think she believes in anything?
I think she believes in government, like most Marxists.
Yes.
I think she is a Marxist.
Do you think that she can win?
Absolutely. She can win. This is going to be a great test of the power of the media to take someone who formerly was universally disliked and transform them into a godlike figure. And they will use everything that they have to try to do that. The question is, are the American people smart enough to see through it? And I actually think the American people are smarter than anybody gives them credit for. And I don't think that they are going to be willing to sacrifice what we have in this country, which is what everybody else wants, even though they try to denigrate our country, say we're systemically racist, we're unfair to people. If we were all that bad, why are all these people trying to get in here? And why aren't people trying to get out of here? So we know that we have something that's very good. And I think the American people realize that, and they're not willing to give that up and trade that for something inferior.
He's a smart guy, Ben Carson, who would have been a good vice presidential choice. And I still think he'll be an important member again this time around in the Trump administration. You know, Bill. The other thing is this: Trump knows media, maybe better than any candidate ever. The guy knows how to play the media, and I think that they're letting this initial love fest with Carmela happen because it's to be expected. You know, they open the doors and everyone sees her. Oh my God, there's Carmela, and she hasn't really said much yet. A lot hasn't been said about her yet, but as she starts to make her presence in this campaign known, people are going to realize what an empty suit she is.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at her real quick, and the things that she has said in the past and what she's about. If she becomes president, she will defund the police. She says there's better ways than using the police to get to different things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're not going to have a police force out there. That's real brilliant thinking on her part. She goes, let's get past the debt. Let's just cancel the national debt. Well, that sounds good, but then what about all the people that are owed the money? I guess they can go pound sand because that's what she's basically saying. Mm-hmm. And can we do that with our debts? No, we can't. But she's going to do that. Let's see. There's free health care, free Medicare, free everything for everybody.
She wants us to be out of fossil fuels by 2030.
Yeah, less than 10 years, which means your car, if you got a note on it, you owe that note unless she's going to cancel that note. And then all the banks that hold that paper and everything, what happens? Because you bought that vehicle and now it's a paperweight. And then we got to dispose of that. And what are you going to do? You're going to drive an electric car?
They're probably going to tax you or penalize you for driving it every year after 2030 because, they have to mitigate your pollution, so you'll be penalized.
Yeah. Now they have student debt forgiveness. She wants to just go ahead and forgive the debt all the way down, and for teachers too. Now let me ask you a question here: is if I have a debt, and maybe it was a 10-year loan or something like that, doesn't matter. It's all forgiven at once. Is that not a form of earned income that I'd have to pay taxes on?
Normally, yes. Yeah.
So
you got something. Absolutely.
So and she's going to want those taxes from you. So, okay, she's giving you something to get something that she wouldn't get otherwise.
Yeah. If I were the Democrats right now, I'd be a little disappointed in this choice. By the way, folks, they shoved this down the Democratic party's throat. These select people replaced Biden, who had all these delegates, and they swapped him with Carmela, who had nothing. Zip.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a guy, and I can't think of his name. He was also running on the Democratic, and he had a handful of delegates, and he's not even in consideration. He has more. This third, I can't think of his name. I'll think of it after the show is over. That's how it works out. But he has more delegates that were voted for him than Carmela, yet he's not being considered.
Yeah. One of her running mates, is it Kelly, Mark Kelly, the former astronaut? He looks good on paper, but if you really look at him, you can forget about your gun rights. He is a total socialist, and actually, he's an Obama pick to be president. So that cut man that Carville's talking about, he would be the guy, and he's just as bad as she is. I don't care about the fact that he was in the Air Force and that he was a space plane co-pilot. He wasn't a pilot. He was a crane operator on the shuttle. That's what he was. He operated the crane.
And Josh Shapiro was in consideration. And now the Democrats are questioning whether he's a good choice because he's Jewish.
Yeah, but he wants to be the guy. And Kamala needs to realize what she is. And all of these candidates, even though I don't like them, are better picks than her. And, now a good leader picks somebody better than them, that can assume. But the politics is a cutthroat business. Ask Joe. He got booted out. And so I'm wondering if, the rumor is right. Him quickly anointing Kamala was his way of saying, screw you, Obama. Here's your candidate. But, I was thinking about, she's going, hey, I said I'd debate Trump on September 10th. He's afraid of me. No, Kamala, you are not the anointed candidate, not until the convention. And you have all the delegates and they say, you are the candidate. Trump doing that further anoints you and does nothing to help the process. So the best thing to do is wait until your convention and see how it comes out, because you may not be the candidate.
Well, she's not welcome in places like Houston, Texas, which is a Democratic city. You would think that Houston would welcome her, but it's so close to the border, and they're suffering from all of these illegals being in Houston that they have to deal with.
Wait. So it's not her fault. She was never the border czar. That's what they say.
No. Actually, there's audio. I haven't got it. Yeah, there's audio saying that I'm making her our border czar. They say it, okay? You hear people on the left now saying, well, she was never made the border czar. Bull. What they don't want you to do, by the way, this is a new phenomenon that we didn't have years ago. Now, when the left doesn't want you to believe something, even if you've seen it with your own eyes, they want to be able to convince you that your eyes are lying to you. For example, President Trump, we talked about the shrapnel and the bullet. There's a picture out there. You can go online, see it for yourself. You can see the sonic signature of the bullet as it just went through Trump's ear behind his head. You see it in the air, and they're trying to tell you that it might have been shrapnel. And by the way, they try to minimize shrapnel. There's a lot of guys in the service who were severely injured by, dare I say the word, shrapnel. When they have a hand grenade and they throw it in a room and it explodes, you're not killed by a bullet. You're killed by thousands of pieces of what? Shrapnel. All right? These people are amazing. And when I see Christopher Wray, the consummate politician, I remind you of this. He's afraid right now because there's a distinct possibility that if Trump gets into office, he's going to be a target. They're going to go after Christopher Wray for all of the misdoings he's done.
There's a lot of stories out there that tell you that the Democrats are afraid, from the Eileen Cannon ruling, where, the appeal has gone in by Smith to say, hey, I want to appeal this, and then the ruling coming down saying, yeah, you can appeal it, but certain briefs have to be filed, which puts any kind of decision or argument of the decision after the election. What are they afraid of? Letitia James coming out telling the SCOTUS. Oh, don't investigate this. Don't invest. What are you afraid of, Letitia?
Yeah.
What are you afraid of? And then Biden this week is going to come out with his ruling saying that he wants term limits and a code of ethics on the SCOTUS. Well, you know what? You want term limits and a code of ethics. I think that would be good for senators and Congress too. What are you afraid of?
Well, I mean, I would love to see the deal that Biden worked out with the Democrats on his way out the door, because you know that he didn't just say, okay, I'm not going to run. He's got too much that's hanging in the breeze. Right now they're going after Hunter, and you know they're going to go after his brother, and they're going to go after him eventually. If it's an honest and fair world that we live in, all of them will be targets because they've all committed crimes.
Or it all goes away starting November, when, if the election is stolen, which I think they've got it in, but there's too much evidence out there. In Pennsylvania, they admitted that they were letting people that were unregistered for the past 10 or 20 years, unregistered voters to vote.
Yeah, dead people, too.
Dead people.
Yeah.
So that means that every election in the past 10 years in the state of Pennsylvania, in my mind, should be questioned and null and void.
Bill, I don't know whether you remember this or not, but I remember after the 2020 election that there were people saying that there are dead people voting, and they just poo-pooed it. They just dismissed it, like, oh, forget about it. Now, here it is almost 4 years later, and they're saying, well, maybe there were some dead people voting. It's like the damage is done. And by the way, President Trump couldn't be more right. Mm-hmm. There's never been a more crucial time for you to vote, hopefully in person, so they can't fudge your mail-in ballot. I mean, if you can vote in person, do it. If you cannot vote in person, if you have to vote by mail, by all means, do so. And do it correctly. Make sure you do the whole process right, because if you don't, they'll throw your vote out. I mean, they usually put multiple envelopes, and you have to do certain things. They just make it so that if you make one silly little mistake, they can toss it, especially if they don't like who you voted for. So be very careful how you do the process. I would suggest if you have to crawl into the voting polls, do it. Go into the actual polling place and vote. Although, I got to tell you another thing, Bill. The last time I voted a couple of years ago during the midterms, they made the process. It used to be that you walked over in my area, you walked in, you told them who you were, you walked over to the electronic machine, you punched in your vote, and you left. But now they've made it a two-step process. You walk over to the machines and you punch in your vote, then it gives you a card, then you walk over to another machine, you insert the card into the machine, and it gives you a receipt. It's like, let's really complicate the situation. If you have write-in ballots, all you do is they give you a piece of paper with the names on them, and you color in the little space for the guy you want. I like this guy, I'll color it in black. I like this guy, I'll color it in black. And then you put that into the machine, and that's it. It's like they've made it so complicated. And, Bill, I think the Chinese are going to have their fingers in it again. Nobody talks about how they messed around in the last election with, changing the ballots, changing the votes. It's like it never happened. I hope that Trump and his people are aware of all of the wrongdoings, and they have it covered. I really do.
We talked about it last week, and nobody's talking about it, but it came out that the Chinese are funding Kamala right now. When she made the announcement, they are funding it. What was it? How did that story go? Because they were doing it through the voter registry. They were making contributions in people's names, for $20, $200.
Yeah.
200,000, and these people are coming forward. I didn't make that contribution.
And James O'Keefe, the investigative reporter, he went out to the different people and it said, "Hi, Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones, you contributed to what was it, the Blue Project? Yes, and you contribute. How much did you contribute? He said, I think I don't know, $50 or $25. Oh, so you didn't contribute $250,000? The guy went, no, I didn't contribute $250,000 because it has you down here as being $250,000. That's what they're doing. Good people who actually contributed, $10, $25, $50, they're changing the figures.
And it might not just be the Chinese that are doing it. What a way to get illegal PAC money in. Say, okay, take this money and just spread it out over the voter rolls. They'll never know because they don't have to claim it on their taxes. Nobody's going to know. Let's just do it. But nobody is talking about it. And it's the evidence is there that they're stacking it. And Kamala's big jump in money that was just magically overnight, that was money that was frozen because they didn't want to contribute to Biden. And once a candidate was announced, it unlocked that money. Oh, she got all this money overnight. No, she didn't. Come on.
But they're not putting, first of all, they put a weak candidate up, so they know they're going to have to fix it. And they probably put a weak candidate up thinking, well, look, no matter how weak she is, we can still make good on this election. We still can fix it. Because they fixed it the last time out, and they thought they fixed it in 2016, but they didn't fix it enough. You know? So, I mean, Bill, has the right fixed the system? Have we done anything to keep them from cheating?
Well, you know what? We know that they cheated. Well, we know that they cheated in 2016, but we won. We overwhelmed it. We did nothing in that time because they inundated Trump with all kinds of accusations and everything. In 2020, we knew it was going on, but the system hadn't been addressed, and they stole. And I stand behind that. And the evidence is starting to surface in different places like Georgia with the lost ballots and everything. It turns out it was Pennsylvania. Now we know that we have people that weren't supposed to vote. And Shapiro, he was bragging that, I've won every election. I've never been beaten. It is funny, though, Shapiro, that you win in the wee hours of the morning. How does that go? Because I don't know anybody that gets up and votes in the wee hours of the morning. Pretty much when you go to bed how the votes have been tabulated, and they're not going to make a drastic change overnight. Oh, we found the one box that has all the Shapiro votes. Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, they did it with Trump. They did it with Trump. Remember, we saw them going, oh, my gosh, there's boxes of votes underneath this table with the curtain around it. My goodness.
That's how did that get there?
Yeah, we'll have to count these now.
Before we forget about them, yeah.
It's amazing. We have I hope we have a system that has been fixed. I haven't heard anything. Well, now, the question is this. Would we hear if they fix the system? Would we know?
No.
They would keep that. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that if the system is fixed, if they've got people covering the elections, that it's kept on the QT. Anyway, getting back to Trump, he's doing another rally in Butler. They haven't announced when, and they haven't announced, Bill, whether it's going to be at the fairgrounds or at an indoor arena. It's supposed to be a rally to honor Corey Comparator and the other two people who were seriously injured that afternoon 2 weeks ago.
The problem that they have is that there's nowhere in Butler to do that. You got the farm show grounds, and then you got the airport, the fairgrounds. That's it. You don't have an indoor facility there because I've done a lot of events there. I used to do Cruisapaloozas where you'd take the main highway going through Butler and you get the state to close it off to do the car shows.
Do they have a high school, Bill? I'm just curious.
Yeah, but you don't have the auditorium room to do it. I mean, and I've done events. There were a couple of hotels that had rooms, but they weren't big enough for big crowds, not the kind that Trump would command. You're going to have to go towards Pittsburgh and get into Pittsburgh, and you're still going to have the security problem. Speaking of Pittsburgh, there were cops, I believe, from Pittsburgh.
Yes.
That were asked to go and work at the Trump rally.
They were punished.
And they were punished and reassigned and demoted, basically, because they did that. It's amazing how this works. There's
the democratic system doesn't cut you any friggin' slack, Bill. And I don't mean democratic in general. I mean specifically the system run by the Democratic Party, which is the Pittsburgh government. A bunch of cops from Pittsburgh go out to the rally to help President Trump, to protect them, and they get penalized for being there.
Look, if you're a Democrat, let me simply explain something to you. You're not going to like this analogy, but if you're a Democrat, the code is you will slit your own grandmother's throat if she doesn't follow along with your instructions or narrative. That's just how they are. So nobody is safe from the system. You follow their marching orders, or they're gonna do you wrong. That's just how it works.
Well, we are we're living in dangerous times. Trump is doing, like you said, another rally in Minnesota today, and I'm worried for him. Every time he steps in front of a crowd now, I can't even. I have the sound down, but I can't look because I'm afraid for the guy. Because I'm afraid that at any moment, out of the clear blue sky, some lunatic like Crooks is going to take a shot, and because of the inept securing of the president. By the way, Dan Bongino, God bless him, he was a Secret Service agent for 12 years, and he was a successful Secret Service agent. He is so angry at his former organization for having allowed their standards to slip, and he believes they've drastically slipped over the past few years. They've cut back. I mean, they were telling, if the story is true and if what Bongino was told is true, the counter snipers were given instructions that they could only go to a Trump rally if it's within driving distance from their home.
Right. The rules are extremely changed to protect anybody that's running against the Democrats. If you're running against the Democrats, I'm sorry, you're at your own risk. You really shouldn't be out campaigning because it's not safe for you. The other interesting thing, you remember back in 2016, there was the FBI agents that exchanged the text that they hated Trump and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they got awarded $2 million for, the invasion of their privacy and their text. Now, let me ask you a question.
Peter Strzok, right? And Lisa Page.
That's it. Those two, she got $800,000, he got $1.2 million.
Amazing.
And what that tells me is they're going to say, well, any communications that they have, no matter what it is now is protected. So you can't get it, subpoena it, or anything with that case. That's kind of what that means. And my position is, was it their personal phones or were they company phones?
And mind you, they were still guilty of what they said. They won the verdict because apparently they're saying that their privacy was invaded. This is, and by the way, folks, it's our money that's paying them. So we're essentially paying them for doing something despicable, about President Trump. By the way, they're not the only FBI agents who have made disparaging remarks about Trump. In this last shooting escapade, they admitted that there was an agent who made a remark of disappointment, let's say, about the fact that Trump wasn't killed.
Yeah, it was a lady agent. I forget. I had her name yesterday. I saw that. But they don't care, and the simple fact is, I don't care that you don't like the guy. You swore an oath that you're protecting him, me, and you are protecting, basically democracy. But, the Democrats' interpretation of democracy is they're going to Trump's an endangerment to our democracy.
Well, they've been told that by Biden and his minions for months, years.
Right. Okay, well, what are they saying is democracy, the democratic way? Because,
yes,
Act Blue is what you were talking about earlier with the funding and everything. It's also saying, yeah, you vote straight up and down the ticket blue.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but, even though I'm a vote red guy, I don't necessarily believe that you vote all red. I necessarily believe that you see a blue candidate, an independent candidate, or a red candidate, and whichever one you believe is going to do the best job for you is the person you vote for. And that, my friend, is our democracy.
Unfortunately, you are in the minority now. And I point to the members of Congress as an example. If you look at the Democrats in Congress, they vote in lockstep. They are a united mass against the Republicans. No matter what you put up there, no matter how important the bill is, if they're given their instructions from on high, vote against this, no matter who they are or what district they're in, they will lock arms and they will vote against it. They are a united force. Unlike the Republicans, who are a bunch of cats. Ever try to herd cats? I mean, they're all over the place. That's the Republicans. They haven't got that united feeling that the Democrats have, and it's tough. By the way, there's a new poll that came out. Unfortunate for the Democrats, it came out, I believe, yesterday in the New York Times of all places, saying that Trump is going to be hard to beat. It's going to be very hard to beat Trump, no matter who you have. He has the momentum. It must have pained the people at the New York Times to put this out there. But, there's only so much they can hide and bury. And
Here's my recommendation for any Republican. Any Republican, even if you're part of the Trump ticket. We are the underdogs.
Yes.
We are the underdogs. We fight like we're coming back, that we've got the biggest hill that we got to climb, but we're climbing it to win it. We're the underdogs. And never forget that, no matter what the polls say. If they say we're down, great, we're the underdogs. If they say we're winning overwhelmingly, we're still the underdogs.
I couldn't agree with you more. Here's what the New York Times says. New York Times poll. Majority of registered voters say Trump, quote, will bring about the right kind of change, end quote. But, Bill, you hit it on the head. I think what they're going to try to make the right feel is like, oh, we got this in the bag. This is a shoo-in. They don't need my vote. No, I believe what you said is true. We have got to vote like we're the last vote that makes a difference, you and I.
It's your vote that's going to make the difference. You're the vote that throws it over the top, because they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to make themselves look so big and insurmountable that you just go, screw it, it's not worth it. I'm not going to vote, because why waste my time? We're going to lose anyway. No, you've got to go do the show, because even if they do steal it, if they sit there and say, well, you only got 4 million votes, but they see 160 million people out there voting for Trump, they know that their little lie, because we're going to start talking, yeah, I voted, but it didn't count. Well, wait, I voted. Did you vote? Did you vote? Did you vote? Wait a damn minute now. If we all did that, it will come to surface. They want to steal it and change it. That's why Biden this week wants to tie the hands of the Supreme Court, because they're afraid of something. That's why the Democrats want to get in and change everything. Kamala is the most socialist of the socialists that have ever been in the Senate, and they're trying to change her record overnight to paint this picture. But Kamala is Kamala.
Here's what you're going to see.
Change.
You are going to see over the next few weeks or months, you're going to see every celebrity you've ever heard about coming out saying, oh, isn't it great? Isn't Carmela perfect for our country? You are going to see every single celebrity that means something throwing their hat behind Kamala, because they want to influence your vote, And the fact of the matter is, trust me, Hollywood has got a lot to hide. Yeah. Hollywood has a ton of stuff to hide. Believe me, they're criminal in many ways, and you're going to find out in the not-too-distant future. Let me just leave it at that, because this is not the time nor the place to get into it. But they have got their skeletons in their closet, and they don't want you to open the closet door. If a guy like Trump gets into office, that may happen. Anyway, we will also find out in the not-too-distant future about things like the monies that we're spending in foreign wars. You know, we had Benjamin Netanyahu. He was over here this past couple of days making the rounds, speaking in front of Congress. He met with Carmela. Carmela made him so angry. It says a top Israeli official says that Kamala Harris's comments could harm the chance of reaching a hostage deal. And Netanyahu is, quote, furious. He then went down to Mar-a-Lago and had a very productive meeting with the former president and hopefully future president. And I think he left feeling more hopeful than he felt when he arrived after speaking with Carmela, because Carmela doesn't have a lot of Israel's best interest at heart. She is very much she's a politician.
Yeah,
she
didn't.
Go ahead.
She didn't want to speak with him. She only did it under political pressure.
Yeah,
and the Democrats, most of them boycotted Netanyahu when he did his speech. And then you had Tlaib sitting there going, war criminal, which I would have had her taken out by the sergeant of arms. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but to me, that is an automatic dismissal from your congressional seat.
It's a demonstration, Bill.
It is a demonstration. Yeah. And those bastards, and that's what they are, that sat there and painted the red paint on our monuments, took our flags down and burned them. Not only should they sit there and be thrown in jail, like Trump said, for a year, when they get out of jail, we march them immediately to the docks, put them on a boat, and they pay for it.
And I'll bet you, Bill, I will be willing to bet you that at least half are not citizens. A lot of them, I'll bet you a lot of them, by the way, are illegals.
Oh, they're probably going to vote in this election.
Unbelievable. But I'm on your side. Send them back. Send them back. And by the way, if you're pro Hamas and you are such a stalwart when it comes to supporting Hamas, I think we should send you back to Gaza. Send you back to Gaza. Be with your brethren. You know, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk.
Look, you don't belong in this country because you don't support our values. You're not going to sit there and change our values to your values, because if we allow that to happen, then you're going to have us. Well, you won't have us. You won't kick us out of here. You'll just kill us and march around with our heads on a stick. That's what they want to do. You know, they do not like us.
They were burning our flags, and I guess technically by law, they can burn an American flag, but what they cannot do is they can't steal a flag and burn it. And that's what they were doing yesterday.
Well, let me ask you a question. Could I sit there and say we are going to get they have a flag, right?
Sure.
Could I sit there and say we're going to have a rally, kind of like that disc jockey did one time in Chicago, the disco, and sit there and said, let's get all the disco records and have a big bonfire? Why don't I sit there and have a big rally and have all the Hamas flags and have a big bonfire with it?
They would arrest you for, like, inciting a riot. Honest to God.
Really?
Yeah. Now, mind you, they didn't arrest, I think they arrested 37. I think that's
they let them go.
They
let them go.
You know, what I don't
arrest them if you're going to let them go.
What I don't understand, Bill, is why they don't back the buses up to these places and then perp walk these people right into the buses and put them in a prison. We have a lot of empty prisons, by the way. You know, there are a lot of decommissioned prisons that we could stick them in.
Well, we want to use those for the homeless. Oh, speaking of which, all the Massachusetts, Maura Healey now said, we don't have any room. I'm sorry, you got to get out of this state. Telling the homeless they got to go. Well, you open the doors.
Wait. They're kicking the homeless out of the state, but they're leaving the immigrants in?
Well, I think they're kicking the immigrants out. They're saying, whoever, you got to get out. There's no room. But, they want to clean up their street. Look, everything that they're doing is disingenuous. It's just all to sit there and say, oh, we got a bleeding heart, the liberal bleeding heart. But once they get what they want, look at Newsom out in California now. You got an election coming up. He's deporting all the homeless. They're getting get them off the streets, get them out of here. Because it doesn't look good for them. They got to clean up that state and make it look good and pretty again. But they're not going to clean up their debt. They're not going to clean up their policies. And
listen to this. On July 25th, the U.S. Government Accountability Office released a damning report revealing an additional $2 billion in accounting errors related to the Pentagon's aid to the Ukraine. The discovery compounds the $6.2 billion overestimate previously disclosed. When they say overestimate, let me explain. That means they lost the money. 6.2, not million, 6.2 billion that they can't tell you where it went. Oh, my gosh. So now it's a total of $8.2 billion that they can't account for.
Let me ask you a question. So you got $8.2 billion that you give to a cause that nobody's going to approve of.
Right.
You're going to say, yeah, I gave it to this cause. You're going to say, I don't know what happened to the money. We misplaced it. We lost it.
Well, it's a war. It's a war. And, things happen quickly in a war. And, my God, you have to spend money quickly. There are financial decisions that happen fast. Not everybody writes them all down. So we lost $8.2 billion.
Well, yeah, if you sit there and say that you spent $8.2 billion, you're a thieving idiot. Otherwise, you're just a bumbling fool.
Now, in the meantime, I remind you that people like Zelensky have a palatial estate in Miami, in Florida. I'm just saying, right? And he got this from his comedian salary. He also has a nice place in Paris, and he had just bought a new $4.5 million car.
And what is it? The mayor in that town there in
Kyiv,
in the Ukraine? Yeah, in Kyiv.
Uh-huh.
I think he works on a $700 a month salary, but he just bought a $750,000 million home.
Of course.
Yeah, I can.
Well, if you save really well, really well, and he probably saves bottles too. And brings them back for refunds.
Yeah, so, $5, 5 cents a bottle.
Yeah, exactly. So, this is a very conscientious and,
Well, yeah, and probably he could walk in and say, hey, I have plans on being very rich one day. Oh, okay, we'll put that on your bottom line there. That'll increase your debt-to-income ratio.
$700 a month, did you say, or a week?
A month.
That's a salary, and he walks out with a multi-million-dollar house.
Well, $500,000 to $750,000. Either way, you couldn't buy a dilapidated trailer in a junkyard on that salary. You just couldn't.
And we just mentioned Zelensky, his wife, and this guy here. Those are three people. We're talking about probably hundreds of politicians and thieves in the Ukraine who are stealing our money. By the way, at our expense and at the lives of their own people. These are the worst kind of parasites because they'll keep this war going. They'll allow the sons and daughters of their country to die for no good reason, By the way, did you hear the other thing? I'm glad you brought the Ukraine is now considering sitting down with, so is Russia, sitting down with Trump and talking about peace. Trump made a statement yesterday saying he's glad to see that Vladimir Putin has decided that he'd be happy to sit down and discuss peace.
Let me give Trump a suggestion. You've got Biden pretending to be president. You've got Obama in the background pulling strings. Kamala's now pretending to be president. Trump is the only real president I know out of all of them. So why doesn't Trump just sit down and say, yeah, we'll negotiate it and negotiate the deal right there in front of everybody?
Because Obama will take the credit. Because Obama and Biden will say it couldn't have happened if we didn't broker the deal. Trust me, they will take the credit, and that's why Trump hasn't done it. Because Zelensky said last week, he said, well, if Mr. Trump can make the deal, why doesn't he make the deal now? And Trump won't make the deal now because Biden will either screw it up and he may screw it up intentionally, or he will take credit for something he didn't put together.
Look, the Democrats thrive off of us hurting and being in debt. They sit there and they talk about. I listen to all the lies. They sit there and they say, "Hey, we produce more oil now than we ever have." That we've become the biggest producer of oil. All right, read between the lines. They're saying Shell Oil, Chevron, and all these companies. Well, they may be drilling, but they're not drilling here. They're drilling in Iran and Iraq and Saudi Arabia and places like that, which means that we're paying royalties and rights, and we're drilling on their ground with our money, our crews, and those guys own the oil and sell it back to us. And so Biden, his policies ran up the prices, but then they come down to about $3.89 a gallon. Well, they were $1.97 a gallon when Trump was in, and Kamala wants to do it with fracking, which is a way we've got more oil under this ground than they have over there.
It's like when Biden says, when Carmela says the illegal immigration is down 55%, she says, and she says it with great pride. Mm-hmm. But what she fails to tell you is that in their administration, they increased it by 300%. So if it's down 55%, it's still up 245%. But that's neither here nor there.
It was proven on the news that they've cooked everything. But unfortunately, you have a diminished Fox News that gives conservative news. Mm-hmm. For the most part, it has gone to the left, especially the Fox Now Live. It is all, we have another breaking story. Here's Kamala. And after that story, another breaking story today. Oh, here's another Kamala story. Kamala, chameleon. I'm tired of it. And
what they don't do is they don't tell you what's happening with the assassination attempt. They try to diminish that like it's ancient history. Again, I remind everybody listening,
we should still be talking about it.
It's only 2 weeks today. 2 weeks today. Let me put it in perspective. When they killed Kennedy, I was a kid. When they killed President Kennedy, they talked about it for like months. It was a big story for months. My God, 2 weeks after the assassination, they were still trying to figure out what the heck happened. And
when the World Towers went down, we had songs and everything. Do you remember? Remember. We always remembered. Trump, there was an assassination attempt. And I believe it was our government, but it doesn't matter who you believe it is. Mm-hmm. Don't forget, do you remember that iconic picture of his fist in the air with the blood running down his face?
Yeah.
And that was real blood. You should sit there and run. If you got a printer, print a copy of it and take that piece of paper and tape it in the inside of your car to your back window of your car and put on that when you print it, remember.
Yeah.
Don't forget. Put it there and just do that as a reminder. And you know what? If you need to, put it in a plastic, cover so that you can take it down when you park the car. Because
we should print it up and put it on our website and let people just download it.
I could do that. I'll have to. I'm out of town. I will be back tomorrow. I could. I could do that.
Maybe that's something that over the course of the next week we can put together and people will be able to download. But look at it. We're not trying to take. If you are somebody who has the ability to print that up now, do it.
Get it out there.
Yeah.
Get it out there because, we may start doing truth bombs. I saw that Kamala now she's on Twitter.
Oh, gag me.
For political stuff. If you're conservative and you want to make a difference, you take one thought, articulate it. If you have to, go online, find an AI writer, write in your thoughts, let it write you out a paragraph, and then you go get a Twitter account and you sit there and make your voice known and heard. You can sit there and say, "Hey, I'm Joe Truth," whatever it is. You put it out there because if you do that, it gets in an algorithm and people start getting it and it gets out there. And then there are people like-minded that will share it. Bomb them with truth bombs. Just put it out there. One thought to remember, and that's it, whatever it is.
Before we wrap this up,
Democrats.
Before we wrap this show up, I wanted to take a moment to remind people that there's still an investigation going on about the assassination attempt on President Trump. And there are things that we should be talking about constantly right now. I mean, like, how did this guy Crooks get in under the wire and fly a drone 2 hours before the actual attack, he had a drone in the air, and he flew it all over the place. People saw the drone, and they just let it fly. Why?
He had a van, he had a car at the site, he had a bicycle at the site, he had explosives, he had a drone, he had a rifle, he had a ladder, he had all these tools. He was there the day before, and nobody saw him. He slipped
they
through the radio,
supposedly
my
saw him.
ass.
They saw him at least 25 minutes before the shooting. They saw him on the roof. And you're saying you didn't see him with a gun on the roof? Because he had the gun with him. He didn't run down and get the gun. He had the gun with him. He had a rangefinder. Do you think he was looking into binoculars?
Look,
Bill, I'm sorry. I am of the belief that it was an inside job.
I'm of the belief that he was recruited to be a patsy and a fall guy, and he didn't know that, and he got killed because they needed to have a perp that did it and hide the fact that there was a real person. And, it takes a certain kind of person to be a sharpshooter anyway, to go out and say, this is the guy you got to hit, and you take him out. And I only know this because, an in-law of mine was a sharpshooter, but unfortunately, he couldn't continue because one of his assets, his legs, got injured in a parachuting jump, and so he can't do it. But he was a special type of individual, and I'm like going, you gotta have something.
Hey, listen. They had a guy who was a representative who was at the site yesterday, who scouted it out, did an interview. He was a former sniper. And he said, look, I was here. I saw the whole venue. I saw it from the rooftop, and then I saw it from the stage where the president was standing. And I can tell you the first place I would have gone, the very first place I would have gone would have been that water tower right over there, the water tower, the place that the Secret Service told their agents not to worry about. Don't have to worry about protecting that.
The interesting thing, too, is all the camera. Now, you want to see Trump, and you want to see crowd, but mostly you want to see Trump because they don't want you to see how big the crowd is. But you would, if I were a camera person, I would have been there where I could have gotten Trump. I could have panned around. And that water tower is right there on the property to the back. And that was never in any of the shots. You didn't know that was there until after the fact. Now, why is that? Who didn't want that to be known? Because if I would have seen that watching the video on TV, I would say, wow, why is there a water tower there and there's no guards around it? There's nothing.
Let me let me tell you another thing. People say, well, why do you think they had somebody in the water tower? Why would they have not gotten that guy in the water tower? First of all, by taking out this guy on the roof, Crooks, okay, all the attention was focused on him. Everybody ran to him, to the rooftop, to the sniper they just took out. Everybody was focused on that area. A good professional sniper would have broken down his rifle and been off that water tower within 3 minutes. He would have been off that water tower within 3 minutes, and he would have been gone into the wind. And that's exactly what happened. They have, I think I told you, Bill, they have video. It's blurry video, but it looks like there's somebody on the very tip top of that water tower. It looks like there's somebody up there. And they just keep it quiet. The FBI denies it. Oh,
somebody could get that video, and depending how bad it is, or if it's averagely, if it's average, you can digitize it and extrapolate from it, and you might be able to get a better definition picture as to what was going on. But they don't want you to do that. They want this to go away. Go back and look at the video of them putting Trump in the car, and you see these little fat. I mean, they got faux pas. They got overlap belly. These agents that weren't agents put on these clothes and put on these sunglasses, and here's a holster. Now you got a gun, and they couldn't even holster their gun, let around. It looked like Laurel and Hart. Well, a couple of Hardys sitting there running around in a circle, not knowing what to do and how to holster their gun. I'm sorry. And then
I learned yesterday there was an A-team counter sniper, an A-team, one of the best counter snipers, asked to be excused last Saturday, the Saturday of the shooting, because he had a personal emergency, which he supposedly really had. So he was given the excuse to not be there. But they didn't replace him.
Well,
unbelievable.
They've got a lot of hires that are diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is something Kamala wants. And you know what? I don't care your sexual preference or anything like that. But what I do care is that you can do the job and you're properly trained. And these people weren't. These were those kind of hires. And I don't think that you should be hired because you're gay, you're black, you're this, you're that. You should be hired because of your abilities.
That's
it.
That little agent, the young agent, the woman who was in the front of Trump, God bless her, she was there. She tried, but she was half his height, and she was covering his head, or trying to, with her right hand. If a bullet were fired, it would have gone right through her right hand and taken out Trump.
Thing off. Yep. Yeah, and it would have taken him out and blew her arm off. Look, I'm sorry, but these people, they have to be willing to take a body shot and a bullet for who they are protecting, whether it's Trump, whether it's Pelosi, whether it's Biden, whether it's whoever, Kamala. Would you take a bullet for Kamala? If not, then obviously you shouldn't be voting for her.
Listen, when you're in the Secret Service, you take – Dan Bongino said he was an agent who covered Clinton, Bush, and Obama. Right? He didn't have the greatest respect for Clinton or Obama, but he protected them with the same, strength and ability that he protected Bush.
You just said something there that I was thinking about yesterday. Clinton, Hillary, Obama, Michelle, the Democrats, even though they don't really like Kamala, they're all converging and coalescing around her, and they're going to support. Where is George W. Bush? Where is he on this? Is he supporting the Democrat, or is he supporting the Republican Party?
He's just keeping a low profile because
where's Romney on this?
He doesn't like Trump, and he's not going to support Trump. I don't think he's even made a comment about the shooting. It's been nothing.
No, none of them have. So you know what? That tells me where their hearts lie. There was even a report that Mitt Romney ought to be the Democrat nominee because he's really not a Republican. But I'm saying, where is he? I mean, he should be at least, in support of his party.
These are the people. You're not going to see anything from Liz Cheney either.
No. Well, I think you'll hear from her again. They're going to rear their head. They want to sink Trump. They want to sink, conservative values. They want to change the country. Kamala, if she gets in, is going to change it. Joe's going to work his best next week by sitting there saying term limits on SCOTUS. Well, is that retroactive? Is that going to be so they can pack the courts right now? And they also want to put a code of ethics on there. What are they afraid of about the SCOTUS that the SCOTUS could get them on? So they're going to do that. But if you're going to do it, put it on the Senate and make it retroactive too, and put it on Congress, that you can only run 2 or 3 terms, and that's it. Boy, wouldn't that change the face of a lot of stuff? Pelosi would be out of there.
Oh, by the way, if you haven't heard, folks, the opening ceremonies in Paris for the new Olympics are a joke, and they're a mockery to Christianity. I can tell you this. I used to like occasionally to watch certain events on the Olympics. I won't watch a second of the Olympics.
Didn't the trains catch on fire?
They had drag queens mock the Lord's Supper, the Last Supper. They had all these drag queens do a phony representation of the Christ's Last Supper, like it was. And they also, it was just abysmal, and it was a slap in the face to Christianity. They won't do this, by the way, to the Muslim faith. They won't do they won't do this to any other faith, but they have no problem at all making Christians the butt of their jokes. Okay,
well, they're attacking Christianity right now. By the way, in France, didn't the trains catch on fire? Didn't they have a fire in the trains?
I believe they had some kind of an assault, and there wasn't some kind of an attack.
And they had a fire. Yeah, so there was that going on. So it is not without harm. Where they were saying, "Oh, it's going to be perfect, nothing's going on."
Yeah.
So I'm worried about that. But here's something else that bothers me with an attack on Christianity. What the hell is going on in Dallas? Now there was that historic, church, Baptist church that
right. You mean Jeffers?
Is a landmark that was downtown that was destroyed in a fire.
Yeah.
Another Baptist church was destroyed in a fire yesterday in Dallas.
And it's like they don't tie this stuff together, right? They're all just happenstance, folks. We are living in a nightmare right now. We're living in a strange environment. By the way, Bill, I'm afraid that this kid Thomas Matthew Crooks, he may have just been one of many who was programmed to be a certain way. No one has talked much about this, and I don't know whether there's anything to talk about here, but part of me says, wait a second, his parents were mental health practitioners. What's that up to? I mean, how could you have somebody so confused living under your roof? You are a mental health practitioner and you can't see it? Or maybe you encouraged it. I don't know. Maybe this was a cell. Maybe this was a cell. Maybe the country is filled with people like this. And that's what worries me about President Trump. I hope his people have really doubled down on his security big time, because they are going to want him. I think they figure the groundswell is so great for his being back in office, they just can't afford that to happen. They're going to do everything they can, and I worry for Melania. I worry for his son. I worry for all of his sons and their families. This is a dangerous time for them.
All right, let me ask you a question. Mental health practitioners, all right? Both the dad and mom did that, right?
Right.
Okay. The average salary, which means you're mediocre at what you do, the average salary in the United States for a mental health practitioner is about $76,000. So between the two, they had over $150,000 of income.
Yeah.
They probably didn't have that much debt. You saw the house.
Yeah.
So in that area, I'm going to say at best, because that house didn't look that great.
No.
I'd barely say
it was a ranch-style house, maybe 3 or 4 bedrooms max, one level.
What would you say the price was on that house?
Probably, I would say $275,000 in today's market for that house.
In today's market. So when they bought it, it might have been a $100,000 home.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, they've got $150,000 of income. So their income to debt ratio would have put them far above that home.
Yeah.
And a nicer home. So something doesn't add up here.
Bill,
and
how about no one's talked about those accounts that he has overseas? How much money is in those accounts? And does the family have access to that?
Right. Do they have other places? There is something going on there that we are not going to know for the next 20 years, unless, of course, look, if Trump doesn't get in, I'm not saying we have to take the House and the Senate. It would be nice, but we need one of those arms to go with the presidency. Otherwise, you got nothing. But let's say we don't get in and get at least the presidency and the Senate, or the presidency and the House. Then what's going to happen is conservative values and the Republican Party will go the way of the Fagawi Indian, right off the cliff. And that's just the way it's going to be. And, you will probably act blue, will have done its thing, and we will be a blue nation for the rest of my lifetime, and probably you listening, your lifetime too. And by the way, if you're between the years of 18 and 24, and they say, Joe said he's passing the baton down to a younger generation, 18 to 24, you have a vote, and a pretty powerful vote. Kamala said you're stupid. Look it up.
I can find the audio. Yeah, she says you're stupid. That's why we put them in dormitories.
Yeah,
I mean, she doesn't think much of young people or what they have to say or offer our society. Hey, we've just about done it. Another show, weekend update show. We always say it'll be shorter. Still, this one.
That's your fault.
Oh my God! I'm not going to say anything. I'll just leave that one lie. If you want to contact us, it's www.itsanotherday.com, www.itsanotherday.com, or www.jimandbill.com. You'll find all of our stuff there, contact information, and all of our former shows.
Well, until we meet again, I just have one thing to say. Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.